Yeah, we'll lead up to questions, right? Anything you guys want, we'll dig in.
Coach Chris Carbon, son of a source, welcome to Tempe.
Thank you.
Herm mentioned yesterday that the offense will probably huddle more this year, so I just wanted to get sort of your thoughts about what may be different from last season and sort of your offensive philosophy and what you think you'll kind of try to incorporate at ASU.
Right. Well, I couldn't necessarily speak to last year and what happened last year. I think moving forward, we want to have the versatility to do a little bit of everything. The more that you can introduce and expose to the defense as far as game plan and their recognition on their end, the more that you can do, whether that be huddle, no huddle, tempo, non-tempo, et cetera. We'll have hopefully a little bit of everything available to give the defensive a different look.
Maybe just to follow up on that, how much 11, 12 personnel, that kind of, your sort of idea about, and the personnel that you have that you inherited?
Well, I think that's a huge positive because we do have receivers, we have athletic receivers, we have tight ends, we have a fullback. So I think there's a variety of different, looks that we can give a defense, both spread out and condensed formations where we can create some, hopefully, advantages on our end.
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. Coach, how much time went into looking at film and assessing players, or are you more of the mind, let me just see what's out there when I get out there? How much film did you look at and game stuff did you see?
There was a lot of that, and then obviously a benefit of me coming in, already having the offensive staff in place. I got a great feedback as far as skill set, who was here, who was returning, what they do good. I've been able to lean on that a lot too, not only the film study, but just leaning on the guys that are already here and just trying to learn, like I say, the skill set of what's here. So I think that's been a huge help for me. And maybe he's even minimized some of the, aggressiveness film study. We've already had, guys in place to maximize what they can do.
Can I follow up? Yeah. What was it that really attracted you to this job?
Well, just from outside in, I think this is just a diamond of a place. I mean, the city, the not only the university, Ray, the administration, the whole deal. I think this is just a fantastic place. Obviously, they've had a lot of success here through the years. The recruiting piece, I mean, there's just so many layers in place that this is just a dynamic place, and excited to be a part of it.
Coach Michael Carrasino, Believe in Pac-12 Football. When you look at, like you said, to piggyback off of coming in and obviously having staff here, but with what you've watched on the players and receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, how do you feel that they've started adjusting to you?
I think it's been good, and I think it's not only them adjusting to me, but me to adjusting to them. I think it's a both way. I mean, I'm super conscientious of that. This isn't necessarily my offense. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, right? How can we collaboratively put this together and maximize everybody in place? So I think that's been good. That'll continue to improve. Yesterday was my first practice too. So, kind of understand the philosophy where I'm supposed to be in a given period in practice. That's a learning curve for all of us.
Doug Haller at The Athletic. When you get started like this, when there are 5 guys competing for a quarterback's job, what can they do to kind of separate themselves this early in this competition?
Well, it sounds cliche, but maximize the opportunity when you're in there. A couple of the guys, you have to minimize the reps just to try to get everybody a look. So when you're in there, you've got to make the most of it. And you tell pretty quick of who knows it, who's studying it, who's on top of the playbook. Because when they're in there, they already kind of have some conviction, some confidence in what's going on, and then those guys kind of start separating themselves out sooner than later. But at the end of the day, your reps are limited, so when you're in there, you gotta maximize it.
And just how is size a factor at all in the quarterback competition? You have guys that are 6'5", some that are under 6 foot. Does that factor into?
Yeah, no, I don't think so much as the history of recruiting, and he's got to be this tall. I mean, there's a bunch of guys even in the NFL that kind of have broken that mold through recent years. So at the end of the day, it comes down to production and efficiency, and at the end of the day, that's what makes the difference.
Coach Luke Liddon here with 12 News. Welcome to the Valley. To piggyback off the quarterback question, what have you liked? I know it's early, only a couple days into spring practice, but what have you liked so much, the most, I should say, from these quarterbacks, and what do you think is an area that still needs improvement as we get closer to the season?
Yeah, I think just the eagerness to learn. There's a newness to it. Obviously, being 2 practices in, they've all been super eager to learn. They're all up there early, trying to get some extra meeting in, buzzing through the script, trying to maximize those reps like we talked about. So I've been super excited about that. They've been very humble as far as being coached. They're trying to implement kind of the new little coaching points here or there that we're trying to get done. So that's been exciting. Just as if everybody needs to continue to, we got to get reps, we got to get experience, and that in itself will lead to hopefully more efficient, offensive plays. So at the end of the day, that's what we need, just more plays.
Hi, Coach. Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AZ. You got hired late January. I'm sure getting your feet under you those first couple of weeks, and then Jaden Daniels announces his transfer. How did that change your preparation viewing the quarterback room and what the situation is behind center here?
Yeah, I mean, our focus is primarily on the guys in the room and moving forward. I mean, from here, we're going to go watch the meeting, watch the film from today's practice, try to get these guys, coached up from what happened today's practice, and then let's go on to tomorrow. So I think that's where the focus is, and those guys are, again, super eager to learn, and hopefully we can improve from today's practice to tomorrow.
Hey, Coach. Jack Loader, Devil's Digest. What's the ideal running back in your system, and what kind of guy have you seen out there today and on Tuesday that really fits that mold?
Well, I think we have a variety of backs as far as skill set. I don't think there's one particular skill set that you'd say, I love to have this. At the end of the day, are they dynamic with the ball? And then whatever that skill set is, it's our job as coaches to put them in that position, whether it be they're more of a stretch player, get them to the edge, they're more of a downhill, shoulder square type runner, a receiver out of the backfield, all those things. Whatever they are and do the best, that's our job to allow them to do. And I think we have a nice room as far as a little bit of all that, to be honest with you. So excited to get all those guys out there and kind of see what they can do moving forward.
Coach Cole Topham, Devil's Digest. You were on the other side last season when you were facing ASU. I was just wondering what you thought of facing that defense and, kind of the approach and basically your mentality here in the spring.
Yeah, I think, statistically, I believe I couldn't maybe speak to some of the details, but I was impressed with their defense from last year. I mean, they had, I think, an experienced crew from what I can remember. They gave us a lot of problems, not only from a schematic standpoint, but just from a personnel standpoint. A lot of athletic guys that can run around, physical, and they're doing a lot of the similar stuff moving, right now against us. So I think we're excited about those guys moving forward, and I think they're going to create a lot of problems for some offenses, in the near future.
Coach, we're probably going to be talking a lot about quarterbacks as we go here, but is 5 quarterbacks almost too much to have in the mix? Because I got to imagine it's hard to give enough reps to each one of those guys.
That's right. Just like we talked about as far as the minimal reps with 5. So, we'll do the best we can to give ample opportunity for all of them to show what they can do, and then eventually it just, just by nature, it's going to have to, kind of water down, and then you go, to 4 to 3 to 2, and then eventually, obviously, you got to decide on the one.
Coach, your installation process, can you kind of speak to that, and then also the verbiage and on the scale of difficult to easy, where would you kind of put it, and the ability, the process for these guys to kind of learn everything?
Right. From an installation standpoint, it was really nice. I think maybe historically they've started spring ball a little earlier, and then with the timing of me here, Donnie here, I think they pushed it back a couple weeks. So that allowed us, to have some meetings pre-spring break as far as, an introduction to some offense. So that really helped us in installation. There is a fine line. We're trying to be as aggressive as we can with the install, try to spread it over 8 or 10, 11 days. Try to get as much as we can in, but not overwhelm them, at least that broad stroke of terminology, what we're trying to get done. So I think we're I wouldn't say being overly aggressive, but we're at least trying to, hit all the hot topics for sure.
Who are some of your biggest influences, like schematically, and kind of who you learned the most from, and maybe pattern what you do after?
Right. Dirk Cutter was a big one for me. Obviously, who's got Arizona State ties. He was fantastic. Mike Malarkey in Atlanta, he was a big one for us. Those were probably the foundation. Before that, before I got to the NFL, it was more of a spread type. Just more run and gun tempo, not so much schematic, but tempo, run a bunch of plays. When I got to the NFL, those 2 guys probably instilled a lot more schematic, sound offense in my mind, and that's kind of where I've turn my thought process in some ways.
What would you say is your adaptiveness to the personnel that you have a quarterback? Because looking at some of the UNLV, for example, versus what's at ASU, just your kind of thoughts about that.
Well, I've been in enough systems where, like I say, when I was in college 20 years ago, it was spread out, athletic, run around, do that stuff. Obviously, when I was in NFL, it was more pro style under center. And then, as I jumped back into college football, we've been able to do a little bit of both. So I think from an experience standpoint, I've been able to be around, several type of quarterbacks. So I think that'll lend itself in a positive way moving forward to whoever that guy may be with his skill set, as far as how we structure the offense.
Coach, in your 2 years at UNLV in 2020, it seemed like it was more kind of like a running back by committee, and then in 2021, you had more of a bell cow. Do you have a preference philosophically of would you rather have one guy that's kind of the guy or have multiple options?
I think you need to have multiple options. I mean, even in the NFL these days, I mean, if you have 2 or 3 guys that can do it, just from a longevity standpoint, that bodes itself well. I mean, it's hard to say you're going to put all your eggs in one particular guy and then, God forbid somebody happens, gets injured or whatever the case may be. So you need to be able to utilize, maybe take some reps, take some hits off of that main guy, right, your starter, whether, there's injury involved or just a maintenance, type situation. The more guys you have, the better off, obviously, you'll be.
Everybody good? One more. ASU was heavily penalized on offense last year. What do you think some of the keys are to ward against procedural penalties in terms of like your training?
Yeah, I think it goes on both sides. I mean, there's obviously a player element, but there's also a coaching element. We can hopefully create some consistency schematically that might help minimize some of that stuff, whether it be pre-snap, post-snap, maybe some thinking things from a coaching perspective. But from a player's perspective, it comes down to just an emphasis, a focus, a priority as far as eliminating some of those things. Because at the end of the day, when you're 2nd and 15, it's tough to get first downs and you're behind the chains and fighting uphill. So that has been a point of emphasis, and we're working through that right now. Thanks, Coach. Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Nice to meet you all.